The Illini on a two-game winning streak with one left against Purdue at the end of the season. Illini getting hot. And I ask, did Brad Underwood get it right after all?
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another Monday morning edition of Locked On Illini. And thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sunny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini. Find me on all your favorite social medias, whether that's X, Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm having conversations with you guys daily, and I just want you to know that I appreciate that your continued support of this community. By the way, we're almost at 2,250 subs, so maybe you're going to be the one. I did check Sunday night. 58% of you watching this video on YouTube aren't subscribed. You may not even realize you're not subscribed, but do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button while you're here, because we have a lot to talk about. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It's Monday morning. We're all feeling good. Illinois with a 20-point victory over the Michigan Wolverines at Ann Arbor. That's right. That's 9 straight wins against the Michigan Wolverines. Life is good right now, and I wanted to bring someone else on to kind of not just talk about the game, but in the postgame, I kind of took a step back, and I wanted to, the season was reeling after that Duke game. Look, a lot of hope was being lost. I called the team broken. That's right. I, myself, the host of this show, called the team potentially broken, and then the team was not broken. All of a sudden, they've kind of had a resurgence as of late. And to me, a lot of that has to do with the transfer class that Brad Underwood has brought in. And I want to kind of give them a little credit here, and Brad Underwood a little credit. But I didn't want to just give my sole focus. So, of course, I'm bringing back JR, friend of the program. JR, thank you again for joining me today.
Glad to be here. I do have a question, though, really fast, if you don't mind.
Let's hear it.
Is Brad Underwood's lucky number 20? Because past 2 games, 20-point wins, baby.
I'll take it. And that's six 20-plus point victories in conference play this year. I mean, it's one of those Illinois games, right, JR? I mean, you cover the Big Ten in the Big Ten huddle, and Illinois is such a Jekyll and Hyde team that on one night they can look like they can beat anybody in the country, and then the other day you can have a loss against a team that's battling to stay in the tournament. So it's just nice for me, I guess for us collectively, who's probably watching the show, that Illinois seems to kind of be righting the ship right at the end of the season. But JR, I want to kind of get your feedback on this first, because I wanted to give due a credit where credit is due. All season long, Brad has been applauded, and deservedly so, for the freshman class that he's essentially brought in. Kasparis, Will Riley. I know technically Thomas Lovovicic is not a freshman, but we all know it's his first year playing college ball. And then you have like Morez Johnson, right? You're talking about Morez Johnson being your 4th best freshman in a class. Tells me that you did something really, really special that year in recruiting. But a lot of people feel like where Brad fell short was the transfer portal. Now, again, it's a lot of pressure on Brad when you have to replace 9 guys off of last year's team. And it ended up being 10 guys because he wasn't aware that Ty Rodgers was planning on redshirting opening day. And so there's been a lot of heat on Brad when it comes to his evaluations of Ben Humrichous, of Tre White. A lot of these guys had up and down seasons, but it seems like, I guess my ultimate point was, after that Duke game, when the whole season looked like it was going down the drain, I've talked all season long that we know the freshmen are talented, but sometimes in the locker room, you just need culture guys. You need those vets who have been there before to kind of stabilize the ship and say, hey, look, to the young guys, like, hey, we can fix this. And to me, Kylan Boswell, Tre White, and Ben Humrichous have done a fantastic job of that, and are a big reason that Illinois kind of turned their season around. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Tre White, obviously, what was it, that Michigan State game where he played, 4 minutes or something like that? I mean, I know that was probably some of the sickness and stuff like that that Brad Underwood was talking about that was going around that held him back from that. But you see what having Tre White in this lineup does for this team. I know a lot of people regard him as not the best 3-point shooter, and I get that. But I mean, in this game, he went 3 for 4 from behind the arc. So I mean, if they're going to leave him open, he's going to take it. And that is really what this team is reeling on right now is the spacing. And for them to be able to shoot threes and to be a threat from the 3-point line, other teams have to try to defend that. And then you have guys like Kylan Boswell, Kasparis Chakonis, I mean, a number of guys that are able to get into the inside the arc and make things happen. I do think, though, that one area where these three guys in particular are making the biggest difference. There's other transfers on the team as well, but these three guys in particular is making the biggest difference is just on defense. I mean,
Mhm.
Sunny, there were 3 blocks in this game, all by Kylan Boswell and Tre White. There were 4 steals in this game, all by Kylan Boswell, Tre White, and Ben Humrichous. I mean, this is a part of Illinois this season that I mean they've played good defense, they've had good defensive ratings, but they've not really had the production in some of those areas. And so if you're gonna get 4 steals a game, from these 3 guys alone, maybe you start getting some more from Tomislav Visic. Maybe you get some more from Gibbs Lawhorn or something like that. Maybe you get some more from someplace else. But if these guys can give you that, they're going to be able to lead that defensive effort, at least from a numbers standpoint, and then with blocks as well. Tomislav Visic needs to probably get a few more blocks and be down there, but. For the most part, this seems to be the way Brad Underwood wanted this team to roll these past 2 games, and they look like one of the most dangerous teams in the country if they are.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of pressure off a guy like Kasparis or Will Riley to be that star when you have a supporting cast play the way that they just did. I mean, just for an example, okay, Duke was 3 games ago. In the last 2 games, Kylan Boswell had 15, 7, and 4 against Iowa, and then of course he just had 17, 9 rebounds and 4 assists against Michigan. Let's go to Tre White. Against Iowa, he had 14 points, 2 rebounds. And against Michigan, he had 19 points and 11 rebounds. And you brought this up. In the last 2 games, Tre White is 5 for 8 from 3-point land. And, that's kind of been a deficiency of his game. And what I think is kind of one of the main reasons he was essentially in the doghouse for a while, because his style of play is just not something that fits with the offense. But I've been screaming out loud on the show that Tre White is a good college basketball player. And Illinois, look, we thought they were a really deep team when it comes to the depth on the roster. It turns out it's not as deep as we thought it was going to be. And so we're not in any sort of business or place to not play a player who is a good college basketball player. The other guy I want to give credit to is one that you and I, let's be honest, have hated on, a big part of this season for honestly deserved reasons, but he's turned things around. I think a lot of that has to do with him accepting a role. I mean, against Iowa, he only played 14 minutes. Against Michigan, he played 24 minutes. And sure, the box score doesn't jump out at you. 9 points, 5 rebounds against Michigan, 6 points, 3 rebounds against Iowa. But he's 5 for 10. 5 for 10 from 3-point land. And it's not even that. If you're watching Ben Humrichous over the last couple of games, he's doing all the little dirty jobs that you want your role players to do. And it's just, I think he's as relieved as anybody to get the light no longer shining on him and letting him just go out there, play basketball, shoot the wide open 3-pointer when it's there. He had some of the most key rebounds, including offensive rebounds against Michigan on Sunday. I think, again, if the other role players hadn't had such a good game, we'd all be talking about how solid of a game Ben Humrichous had. And, those are the 3 guys. You're talking about a lot of experience between those 3 guys that you're looking to carry a young team like this. And right now, at the end of the season, when we kind of need them most, they are.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Ben Humrichous, like you pointed out, like his numbers don't jump out at you like Kylan Boswell and Tre White's do. And I mean no disrespect at all to Tre White and Kylan Boswell by saying this, but Ben Humrichous was the most important transfer out of those 3 in this game, because he was able to come in and play the 5 spot for you when Tomislav Visic was in foul trouble. That's a 5 spot that was going against one of the best big men in the country in Vlad Golden, and a 5 spot that would have had either Will Cheddar or Danny Wolf coming in for him when he subs out. Ben Humrichous held his own, and he spaced the floor, right? He went 3 for 8 in this game shooting from 3. That's not the best, in the world, but still, that's nearly 50%. And he did enough for Vlad and anybody else that was going to be on him to respect him. And so they weren't going to be able to be in the middle of the floor denying guys at the basket. So whether you had Tre White, Kylan Boswell, whoever it was, going to the rim, they had more area to operate. Illinois has fantastic, guys who can finish at the rim, but if they don't have to be fantastic and they can just go to the rim, and make a play and not have to shoot around a 7-footer, you see how effective it is. And I can't say enough good things about what Ben Humrichous did as a supporting player in this game. Is he your third option? Is he your second option? Is he your first option scoring? No. Is he your best defender on the team? No. Like, he is not those things. But what he is he's a guy who was able to come in, fill a role, fill it well enough that the other team had to respect him. And just that, based off of that respect alone, it gave the other guys opportunities to make plays.
And just to wrap it up, I also wanted to just, we were talking about the best defensive player on this team. I want to go back to Kylan Boswell again, who started off the season amazing when it comes to defensive basketball. And even as of late, even against Duke, where he had the large responsibility of playing against Cooper Flagg, a player who's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, a potential generational NBA basketball player, more than held his own. And somehow on Sunday, Kylan was tasked to guard Danny Wolf, a guy 8 inches taller than him, and he held his own there. I've said it in the beginning of the season that I've kind of, in a lot of ways, been looking forward to the last game of the season, because I really think that Kylan Boswell versus Braden Smith matchup this year, I mean, Braden, let's be honest, let's be humble for a second. Braden has had the Illini number the last couple seasons, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this matchup with Kylan going up against Braden, just because of his flexibility. As I just talked about, he was guarding Danny Wolf on Sunday. They're 7 foot tall. And then on the very next game on Friday, he's going to be tasked on guarding Braden Smith, arguably the best point guard in the country. And versatility like that, it's just hard to find in America.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I was talking about it on my show. For a guy who's 6'2", to go up against a 7-footer. Now, granted, Danny Wolf has not been playing like a 7-footer, and he needs to be far more aggressive. He needs to be far more physical. He needs to get down the block and get in the paint more. But he could have done that this game, right? He could have fixed that, but Kylan Boswell didn't let him do that. Kylan Boswell got physical with him, and Kylan Boswell got up in his grill, made him uncomfortable, and really, Danny Wolf was pretty ineffective in this game. Now, I don't know what that says about him as a player, that he's had a couple games like that recently, but as far as I'm concerned, Danny Wolf is one of the best players in the Big Ten. And Kylan Boswell, however many inches away it is, you shut down one of the best players in the Big Ten. Bravo. Hats off to you. It speaks to one more aspect of these 3 players that we're talking about that is just one of the key cogs and why this Illinois team can be as good as maybe some thought they could be early on in the season.
And right after this, we're going to find out just how good JR thinks this Illinois team is compared to the rest of the Big Ten Conference. Attention, Locked On Illini fans. Ever wish you could directly support Illinois athletes and be part of their journey? Now you can with Roy, the NIL app that puts fans in control. Before Roy, NIL deals were often handled behind closed doors, and fans like you didn't have a clear way to directly support the players you love. Now, with Roy, you can make a real impact and feel closer to the athletes representing the Illini. With Roy, you get to choose a player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, get exclusive content straight from the athletes you back. The best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. So it's a risk-free way to show your support and make your voice heard. Support your favorite players directly and help shape the future of Illinois sports. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing Illini athletes the way they deserve, with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. All right, Jerry. We usually always brought you on Mondays on Locked On Illini to give us the Big Ten power rankings, but the last couple of weeks we've just had so much different kinds of content to talk about that we haven't really had a chance to kind of take a peek at your power rankings. Which, by the way, you release every morning on your show, the Big Ten Huddle. So make sure you are tuned in to JR's other show. But I figured let's start from the bottom and kind of see where Illinois stands in the rest of the Big Ten, and also what some of the other big stories in the conference are right now.
All right, let's don't judge me too much on my bottom four, because these four teams all lost every single game this week. So I don't know how to rank teams that lose every single game. I'm doing my best here. Okay, I have Washington last, then followed by Iowa, Penn State, USC. Then it gets a little more interesting. We have Minnesota, Rutgers, Northwestern, and then I think this is particularly interesting. I want your thoughts here. Then I have Nebraska and Ohio State. Now, there has been some discussion from the Twitter world that if a team beats another team and they are right next to each other in power rankings, that team should automatically be above the other team. However, I say it's on the road, or the home environment, that kind of stuff matters. So Nebraska beat Ohio State at Nebraska. However, and I've held pretty true to that. I've flip-flopped it a couple times, but last week I had Nebraska one spot over Ohio State. But Nebraska lost to Michigan and Minnesota, both at home this week. Ohio State went on the road and beat USC this week. So I put Ohio State one spot above Nebraska. I know I'm going to get the Nebraska fans in my mentions telling me Nebraska beat Ohio State, but what say you? Is it justified for me to put Ohio State above Nebraska, or am I just a biased Ohio State fan?
No, I mean, I think, like you said, context really does matter. How impressive? Well, let me just check real quick. Yeah. Minnesota's turned things around. They absolutely have. But if you're trying to be a legitimate basketball team, you don't want to lose to them at home, right?
Especially in the bubble too, right?
Your season, yeah, exactly. You're trying to be noticed in the bubble. You're trying to rack up these quad 1, quad 2, quad 3 type of wins at this point. And to lose a game like that, if you have Ohio State higher than Nebraska, again, I can't say beating USC is easy because I'm an Illinois fan, and Illinois lost to USC earlier this year. So I think you made the right call there.
Yeah, and USC's a little bit on the downslope right now, but still, I mean, Ohio State, they lost their last two before that, so they get the ship righted.
I will say, speaking of USC, it was very disappointing. They've fallen into the quad 3 category. It's, for Illinois, it's now considered a quad 3 loss. So we're hoping the Trojans win here on out.
Next time they play. All right. Well, after that, I have Indiana, who they're an interesting story right now.
So, let's talk about the Hoosiers for a little bit. I don't like to give any extra time to the Hoosiers just because of the fans that I have to deal with every now and then on social media. But, I mean, they've turned things around. They've won 3 in a row. And don't look now, but Mike Woodson might have Indiana as a sneaky bubble team. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Woodson adjusted pretty much ever since he said that he was done and going to retire at the end of the year. And I think that was the best thing for Indiana this year, because Mike Woodson does not give any care in the world. I was going to say something else. Does not give any care in the world about what his players think, what they feel, or anything. NIL, promises he made in the transfer portal. He gives no care about that at all anymore, and he's just playing his dudes. Anthony Leal has never played so much basketball in his life at the college level, but Mike Woodson sees the defender he is, the all-around player he is. He's not really much of an offensive threat, but he's enough to to try and threaten other teams. And then on top of that, you get Luke Goody, his shooting that's been able to come to it. And Mike Woodson, I mean, you never like when a player gets hurt, but God bless Malik Renew for spending some time out of the game, because Mike Woodson figured out, oh yeah, if I put my, 5 with my other 5 on the floor, it doesn't work so well together if the other one's not a dribbler like Danny Wolf is, right? And so now he's got this whole rotation where Malik Renew is in, Umabalo's out. Umabalo's in, Malik Renew is out. And it's just working better for the team. Both guys are fresher, and Malik Renew, I mean, he fouls so much anyway. You can't play him more than 30 minutes a game anyway.
Yeah, the Hoosiers are interesting for me. It's like I want to see if like other coaches are going to kind of learn their lesson just from watching Indiana. Just because right now it's such a delicate situation in dealing with this new world order of college sports, when it comes to NIL and trying to keep players happy because they could very well leave you after one season now that there's no threat of redshirting or anything like that. But Mike Woodson just showing you that, hey, if you just play the best players, more often than not, you can win a basketball game. And so, it's just something we'll see whether other head coaches who, have the light shining down on them. They've got some guys on their roster who are probably making a lot of money, but not exactly proving it out on the basketball court. If they've got the cojones to, I'm trying to use the right word too, to make those changes. Again, Mike Woodson, it's easy because he's not going to be there next year. He doesn't care. He doesn't care which one of these players is going to stay or go on the roster next year. But some of the other head coaches, they've got some choices to make.
Yeah, for sure. And I think at the end of the day, like I said this on the show, and then we'll move on because we do have some fun Illinois chatter to get to. But I thought Mike Woodson would have been much better if they hired him when they hired Archie Miller instead. It's unfortunate that they brought Mike Woodson in during this whole NIL era and everything else, because I just don't think it's the era that Mike Woodson works with. Maybe if he got his feet under him, maybe he got some more respect from other coaches, other teams, players, stuff like that beforehand, maybe it would work better, but just didn't work out for him. So he'll be moving on, and they'll hire Brad Stevens or something. So all right, no, they won't, but they're hoping for Bruce Pearl. Okay, anyway, that's the last one I'll mention. Okay, after Indiana, I have UCLA, Oregon. Now here is where I have number 6, Illinois.
Okay,
and then 5 is Purdue, and this is shaping up to be really fun because you get Purdue and Illinois. Which one is going to be a top 5 team at the end of the season? I love it because a big storyline we had in the offseason was how Illinois shaped their roster, how Purdue shaped their roster, and everything. I just think it's going to be really fun to see which of these two teams is top 5 team, right? Is it the developmental program that brought in all the freshmen of Matt Painter, but he relied on his guys, Braden Smith and everything, or is it Brad Underwood, who went as far as, and I know there's a bigger story to this, but just, humor me for a second, who went as far to move on from Coleman Hawkins. Okay, all right, don't come at me in the comments. I know the story. But is it Brad Underwood who brought in, all these different international players, some freshmen, but also a good amount of transfers? Or was it Matt Painter, who's basically Dabo Sweeney and is like, no transfers. I'm only going to bring in freshmen. I think it's an awesome storyline. I think it's going to be a really cool game, not just for Illinois and Purdue fans and that rivalry that's been brewing over the past few years, but just the storylines and team roster build, all that stuff. What do you think, Sunny?
You know what, Jared, I think you're going to enjoy this story. I saw a stat today that, Brad Underwood in the last 6 seasons has 80 Big Ten wins, which is tied with Matt Painter. And you and I have some mutual friends who hate it when Illinois fans bring up the fact that Brad Underwood has had the most wins in a select allotment of years. And so to know that Friday, with a win, Brad Underwood can have that leg up on Matt Painter yet again for one entire offseason, just so this is one talking point us Illini fans can have over the Boilermaker fans that just drives them crazy. This Big Ten season at this point, the regular season means nothing for Illinois, outside finishing the top 5, of course. But I want them to win just for that little banter I can have for another 8 months of the offseason, just to, continue to kind of show that Brad Underwood's a really, really good coach. It's a matchup which, it's fascinating for all the reasons you mentioned, and I'm going to be going more in depth on it later on this week. But yeah, you're talking about 2 teams who went the exact opposite routes, and you have a Purdue fan base who insist, that their head coach does everything right and does it always the correct way, the classy way. And you have what I consider the Illinois fan base to be like more embracing the chaos that comes with the Brad Underwood team, just because we've seen what he's brought us from the depths of the bottom of, playing on the Wednesday night of the Big Ten tournament, now to being arguably, or not arguably, the most successful coach in the Big Ten over the last 6 years. There's just so many storylines that come in with this game on Friday. And I got to say it again, I gave credit last week, but Michigan State playing the last game of the year, Illinois, Purdue playing the last game of the year. Like, hats off to those Big Ten schedulers, because they really got this one right.
But they did. And Ohio State, Indiana. Did you forget about that one? That's the last game of the year. I know that's on everybody's watch list as well. No, I'm kidding. It actually will be an interesting game for bubble reasons. If both teams
absolutely
win up to that game, that'll be really interesting. But yeah, Illinois fans, you'll be rooting for Rutgers on what day is that? The 4th? What is that? The Tuesday? You'll be rooting for Rutgers on the 4th, so that way if you beat Purdue, then Brad Underwood will have 81 wins, and Matt Painter will have 80.
Okay.
There you go. Put your hope in Rutgers. Put your hope in Rutgers.
Exactly.
Which they almost beat Michigan, so maybe they could do it. All right.
We got 4 left.
4 left. I have Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, Michigan State. Michigan lost to Illinois this week. Both Wisconsin and Maryland beat Illinois pretty good. Sorry. Don't mean to bring that up again. And then Michigan State. I don't know if any team in the nation had as good of a week as Michigan State did. Just point blank.
Before I let you go, let's just talk about Michigan real quick.
Okay.
Again, you take a look at Wolverines Twitter right now, and there's a lot of panic. If you're a Wolverines
fan, a lot
of
Roddy Gale bashing. A lot of people that don't like Roddy Gale right now.
I saw your show. You're right. Do you think Michigan are frauds or by any stretch, or you think this was just a bad game?
No, I think we'll need to see going forward. They've won so many close games. I can't call them frauds just because they lose one close game. They did get beat pretty well by Michigan State. I wouldn't categorize that as a blowout because Michigan State just kind of pulled away at the end. Purdue was a blowout when they lost that one, but then they also recovered and beat Purdue on their home floor. So I don't know if I can call that fraud. We'll just have to see what Michigan looks like going forward. They have 2 games left to end the season against good competition. If they get blown out or if they lose both of those games, close, then yeah, they're probably teetering on that fraud territory. But I'm not going to overreact to one loss. Oregon lost by 30 at home. They're still a tournament team, but they obviously weren't our top 5 team in the Big Ten. So maybe they are frauds. Who knows?
JR, okay, speaking of someone who's not a fraud, that's you. Let the folks here know where they can find your work.
Just wait till I post my power rankings tomorrow morning. You'll see all the people that think I'm a fraud. No, you guys can check me out over on the Big Ten Huddle. We have a power rankings episode every Monday morning at 10 a.m. That's probably our most consistent episode. If I can, I will do a Big Ten After Dark episode discussing all the games and everything that happened in the Big Ten from that day. Sometimes we'll talk about the games to come that next day, or maybe the games that happened a couple days before as well. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes me and a guest is what it is. But Sunny, I appreciate you having me here, and I appreciate everybody who checks out the Big Ten Huddle. Because I've had people that say they're from Locked On Illini, and I appreciate it. You guys are
likewise.
awesome.
We do have a lot of crossover viewers, so we appreciate all of you. JR is one of the hardest working people I've met in this space, so I'm glad we're able to share some of that audience a little bit. All right, JR, we'll see you next week, if not sooner.
All right, see you then.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off and want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On Illini. Again, things have really seemingly turned around for Illinois. Two very convincing wins, two 20-plus point victories over conference foes. And look, if you were with me 2 weeks ago, or at least right before the Iowa game, I said, hey, I do think that a convincing game against Iowa, a convincing victory against Iowa, could kickstart a potential turnaround for this Illini team. And hey, they're 2-0 with one tough team coming up on Friday, the season finale. I'm going to have a lot of content for you. We're going to be talking Purdue. We're going to be talking the rest of the Big Ten. We're just going to be talking about the roster in general. Again, just if you're an Illini fan and you're not subscribed to the channel, just go ahead and hit that button. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.